All right, so in the first video, we learned how to get your account data detailed together for capital asset testing. And now I'm going to show you a couple of really neat ways to put in your sums, TB links, and identify scope for your testing. So what I have here is the detail that we put together from the first video with all of our accounts that we want to test. And what I'm going to do for each of these accounts is I'm going to put in a sum, a TB link, identify the scope that needs to be used, and calculate the difference between my sum and my sum of the detail in my TB link to make sure I have all my data included. All right, so I'm going to start by putting in 4 rows between each of my accounts. And I'm going to go through, so I just did Shift Spacebar to highlight where I want the row to go above. And then I'm going to hit Control Plus to add 4 rows. So I've got my 4 new rows added. And one thing that can be really helpful when adding up all of these detail, you can go through and manually put in, use Alt plus to add up all of your debits, go over to your credits, use Alt plus to quickly add in a sum, and then add in, a minus to those. But when you have this much detail to work with, and there's a lot of formulas that you would have to change and alter, I found that really the quickest way to do it is use a sum if. So what I'm going to do is, so first I'm going to put a border on top of this row to identify that, hey, this is where the sum is going. And then I'm going to do equal sum ifs to sum column n. So I'm just going to click top of column n to select the whole thing. Put $signs on that so nothing gets messed up there. And then I'm going to say if column C, so I'm going to go over to column C, select that, put some $signs there, equals this account number. I'm just going to select that account number right at the bottom. Another benefit of having an account number next to each of our transactions. And I'm just going to make sure I put my $signs so I can keep that in column C. And then I'm going to do a similar thing for my credits. I'm going to say minus another sum ifs, and then I'm going to highlight column P there, and then same thing, if in column C it equals this. And then I've got that summed. So now I can copy that formula for each one, and it will automatically sum my account detail for me. I won't have to mess with altering my sum formulas. So now I'm going to put a TB link in. And when you have this much detail that you're working with, inserting a TB link, it's really nice to link it to the account number. So to do that, I'm going to insert just any TB link. Doesn't matter. I get my account detail, current, final balance. I'm going to paste that in there. I know that's not the right account, but it doesn't matter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my TB link. I'm going to delete my account number. I'm going to delete those quotes. I'm just going to link it to that account number. And so now it pulls it in. And then I'm going to calculate the difference between those two. I'm off by $15,000. So something happened. Something happened that is making that different. So I'm going to have to look into that and see what kind of detail I'm missing. I'm just going to put some TB tick marks on there, quickly change my formatting of my TB link to this nice pink purplish color. It's not really the right pink color, but that's okay. I'm also going to change this to blue to identify that it's a sum. Get my colors there right. And so now I've got that calculated very quickly. Another thing that can be really helpful when you have this much account detail that you're working with is to identify what scope to use next to your account balance. I forget what scope I should be using when I'm testing, and I constantly have to go back to my materiality work paper or scroll, up to see, okay, what scope am I using for this account? So something that I like to do when I have this many accounts that I'm working with is to put a formula in to pull in that scope. So what I've done is over on the side of my work paper, I've created a table. And in this table, I have all of my funds that have detail that I need to test. And then I've said if it's an ARP account that was selected, here's the scope that you should be using. And then below that, I have where it says if this was something I selected in my capital asset testing, meaning it wasn't selected in ARP, I can test it at this, higher scope. If it's a governmental fund, I can test it at government wide. So use this scope. So that's what I have. That's what I have there for my scope. And so when I go back over here to my detail, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in this cell. I'm going to type in scope. I'm going to change the color to blue just to identify this is not a part of, something separate that I'm adding in. And I'm going to do a equals sum ifs. I'm going to go back to my table, and it's really important that you do ifs here, not just sum if, but do sum ifs. We're going to add in multiple criteria. So I want to sum this column, sum z, if in column x, we've got our fund number. And I did go ahead, and one thing I didn't show on here is I did go ahead and add in a column with my fund number. So that's something that you can do if you want to do this step. So if in column B equals, or I'm sorry, not column B, but just B 26. Get a little bit ahead of myself there. So if column X over here equals B26, this fund number, and I'm just going to change that so that the reference is right next to the B. And in column Y equals this, which identified, going back to the first video where I had said on my capital expense lead sheet where the account was chosen, if it was an ARP account or if it was capital asset testing. That's why, if you're gonna do this part, that's why it's really helpful to identify the difference between those accounts and how they were selected. So you can really focus in on what scope do I need to use to do this testing. Especially if you have a lot of accounts, that can be really helpful. So there's my criteria. Now it's going to bring in my scope. I'm just going to change the color. I'm going to get that formatted correctly. And so now I can quickly see, okay, 15,300. And then I can look in and see what accounts I need to select. So now that I have this set, all of this information will pull in for each of my accounts if I just copy it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these 4 rows. Control C to copy those 4 rows. And I'm going to go down to each of where I can see there's a break in my accounts. And I'm going to highlight where I want to insert these rows. So I'm going to do Control plus to insert my copied cells. And now if I look to see what happened, I have a sum if formula pulling in my detail based on this account number. I have my scope pulling in from my table based on ARP and it's Fund 101. I have my TB link pulling in there and have my difference calculated. So instead of going through and manually calculating the sum of all this detail, putting in the scope, manually typing that in, checking materiality work paper, it's just done for you. And so now I can just quickly go through and keep pasting that in between where all of my detail is. And so now I have all of the information that I need to make my selections and do that. This is definitely the most time-consuming part of this process, is to go and insert these in there, but I mean that doesn't really take that much time either. So there you go. So there's your there's how to quickly insert your account information. All right, thank you very much.